I'm ready.
So we are, oh my gosh, data security
Oh, yes,
over
we're recording.
coffee, little V for virtual. So it's a lot of fun to be back. It's been a really long time since Angie and I were able to do this. Obviously, with where we are today, she's in one location. You can see that she's circling the earth, and I happen to be someplace else. I'm just not going to tell you. But what's interesting is we had talked a couple weeks ago, and what we used to do with data security over coffee is we would come up with like the top three big questions and really use it from a marketing perspective to drive leads. And I don't know that it was as personalized as it could be. And Angie had the idea of saying, "Hey, listen, why don't we get together and talk as business owners to other business owners on what the pandemic has meant to us? What are we doing? How are we dealing with it? What kind of ideas can we come up with that we can share with others on, just keeping your ship afloat?" In our business, what we're trying to do right now is just do some basic stuff. We're making sure that all of our bills get paid. We're making sure that we meet payroll every 2 weeks. We still obviously service customers because we're considered to be an essential business here in Pennsylvania. And as an almost 20-year-old cybersecurity company, we've got concerns on how are we going to maintain our business, and what are we going to do. So, like you, we've got concerns, and so as Angie and I were talking about it, we said, you know what, let's spin up data security over coffee, small V, and see what comes out of it. Maybe it's not going to be helpful to anybody. Maybe people won't enjoy it, et cetera. But we won't know if we don't try. And so, folks, here we are. So my first question, pitching it back out to the universe to my business partner Angie Singer Keating, what what has transpired since the pandemic really began here in Pennsylvania in our business? I was away when it really started to ramp itself up. I got back to kind of, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on. But from your perspective as a CEO, what's been going on?
Wow, there's been a lot going on. I think one of the first things before I answer your question that I want to say is that just to avoid the inevitable smartass comments that we'll get because we're using Zoom, Zoom, is, Zoom has some serious security flaws. This is also a good example of risk management because we would never in a million years use Zoom for any of our confidential client calls. But for marketing purposes and for generally staying in touch with folks, it's a really good platform. And one of the things about Zoom that does make it good is that it uses less bandwidth. And because it inherently has a lot fewer security features, that's one of the things that makes it easy for folks to use. So there are some really good things about it. But I just want to make it clear, we are a security company that is not advocating Zoom in highly regulated or any type of sensitive conversation.
Thank you for that disclaimer.
Yes, and the other thing, and that allows me to comment back, watch the freaking video. But anyway, and you kind of gave a little bit of history of data security over coffee, which we affectionately call DSOC. As you can see, I'm social distancing out here in space. I'm as far away from people as I can possibly be. But the whole point of DSOC was always that, you and I have a lot of interesting conversations, and we don't get to be in the office together as much as we did in the early days. But when we are in the office, either you stop into my office with a cup of coffee or I stop in your office with a cup of coffee, and you and I just sit down and we just shoot the bull. And we talk about everything from the business to the state of the world to politics to our families. And so I thought that in addition to sharing with people how we're doing as business owners and some of the things we're learning, and then also, talking to folks about some security issues as we're seeing things pop up with our clients, that you and I could also possibly be a little bit of levity in some of their days. I guess the biggest thing that's changed for me, to go back to your original question, is that while I generally consider myself an introvert and a loner, because I do enjoy alone time very much. It's like a magic wish, a fairy granted a magic wish and gave me all the time alone that I could possibly ever want. And guess what? It's not as great as I thought it would be. Another big thing that has occurred to me recently is the whole concept of loss and the vulnerability that comes with losing something. And I don't know if there are other business owners like me that have felt this way, but I'm really grieving the loss of normalcy. And I have had a lot of anger because you and I, took over this business back in 2014 when we bought out a third partner. And you and I really, really were just cranking on all 8 cylinders. We had wrapped up one of our best years ever. We had our very first best quarter ever in the history of the company. And it was really like, man, we have got it figured out and we are rocking and rolling. And so I don't know about you. Have you kind of grieved the loss of that momentum, that place we finally got after almost 20 years? How has it hit you?
I think for myself, it really came down to really being angry because, I left to go away on vacation with my wife. And while I was away on vacation, literally began to watch the globe come apart with the pandemic. And then had no idea what I was going to come back to, and came back to a very serious issue and problem that for myself, it took a good week before it sunk in. And I'm a very social, gregarious person by nature. So being sequestered in my house is absolutely painful. It's I don't enjoy it. And my wife, who's in sales, doesn't enjoy it either. So I think for myself, it was really not being able to celebrate with all of the folks that made 2019 great and started off 2020 even better, to be able to celebrate with them. But as a follow-on to that, we're very fortunate because we've got a group of people that we work with that are being responsible and doing the right thing and staying focused and making really good decisions. Often they're making those decisions in a proactive way and simply coming to you or I for an affirmation that, is this cool to do? And we have always tried to, ever since we took the business over, we've always tried to say, okay, we have to make sure that we're not the choke point. We have to make sure that the people who work in the company have the ability to step into our shoes and run it if we're away on vacation, if we decide not to be here anymore, whatever the circumstance may be. And I think that we have, for the most part, we have that group of people. And also our business model changed back in 2014, 2015, where that's helped us with the revenue challenge that most of our counterparts are getting beat up on right now. So, I guess one of the things is, I'm curious, what was the progression like for you? Because, when I got back, to say that you were on a cadence and you were on a mission, and I was scared to death not to wipe myself down with Lysol wipes before I came in the building, would be an understatement, right? But where are you now? Like, when you take a look at what's happening now, where's your head at now today?
My head right now, whenever you go through loss, you have those 5 stages that we've all heard about. And I'm having right now a little bit of what feels like maybe survivor's guilt when I see business owners interviewed on television that are restaurant owners that have catering businesses. I mean, all of these things that are considered non-essential in normal times. I have some survivor's guilt. And I've also heard on some of my phone calls with fellow business owners I belong to a mastermind group, and some of them have mentioned about they feel guilty that they took PPP money. And my response to them has been, look, you have no idea what's going to happen a year from now. Do not feel guilty. Just because we're not closing our doors and we're in a state where we're still able to service customers and we have customers who need us, that does not mean that a year from now, 6 months from now, you're not going to lose a whole bunch of clients who barely hung on through the pandemic and then they're lost. So I think there's going to be a very long time before, I don't think there'll ever be, we will never go back. There will be a new normal, and it's going to take a very long time to get there. One of the reasons why when you got back from vacation that I was in the state that I was in, which was I was already ready to send everybody home, to lockdown, to quarantine, was because I had the benefit of being in contact with one of the iSigma Italian members. And she was sending me emails. She owns a large document destruction and storage company in Italy. She was sending me, kind of, it was almost like a crystal ball. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're experiencing. Here's what we wish we had done, what we wish we'd done sooner, and what we wish we hadn't done. And that crystal ball was kind of really scary. And it's turned out that every single thing she said has come to pass here. So what's gotten me past this is that it seems like now, for the most part, most people are taking this very seriously. And I, as a person who, have had bronchial issues for a long time, am terrified of ending up dying on a ventilator alone someday.
Sure.
And so that all contributed to how I got where I was, but also having the support of you as a business owner and watching you come back, read through actual material from the CDC and, and other folks, and seeing you come around to, oh, wow, this is real. And then you and I working together supportively to talk about all of the things, how it was going to impact our employees. One of the things you and I felt very strongly about was we didn't want any of our people taking this home to their families either.
Right.
We had some people, we have some employees who have conditions that make it dangerous for them, but they also lived with loved ones.
Well, to kind of answer the survivor's guilt phenomenon, and that is, I think what you do as a business owner, if you feel that way, is if you want to get over guilt, guilt comes about for a variety of reasons, right? But if you want to get over guilt, you have to take some action, so you're not crippled by it. The action that you take is, you make sure that you do everything you can for the people that are working in your business. It's nice to know that there's a meteorite near Angie, and it sounds like a small dog. So you make sure that you care for the people that you're working with. When you go out to dinner and you're getting your pickup, you make sure that you give them a 20 or 25 or a 30% tip. If you really want to get over that guilt, you've got to take action. And the action is you've got to show even extra additional care for the people that are helping you out. And I can tell you from my own perspective, it also brings about now a little bit of anger in that I was coming home from working on a job yesterday and stopped into a Sheetz, which is a convenience store here in Pennsylvania. And ever since Monday in Pennsylvania, we're required in public spaces to have masks on. This is my mask. It's red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot. Anyway, so this guy decides he's going to come stroll into the Sheetz without a mask on. And it's just like, that's the kind of stuff that makes me sit back and say, listen, you can have all of the political nonsense you want about what's right, what's wrong, what's lie, but the reality is there's a problem here. And the guidance is set forth in such a way where you need to follow that guidance. And when people don't, now for me, it's like, listen, I've gone through the first month and a half of this thing. It causes me to get a little bit angry. So, I just simply say that um, we're fortunate because, you know, between you and Connie and Rachel, you've been able to put on 2 webinars that I think have been really well attended. I think they've helped people. You know, we're going to have some interesting DSOC little V conversations coming up over the next few weeks. We're going to be doing this stuff more frequently because it's not that difficult to do. I guess one of the last questions I'd like to ask you, Angie, is so, you know, we're getting ready to go into the weekend. We still in Pennsylvania have 2 more weeks of this stay-at-home order. Um, what what advice do you have for people, small business owners, or people that are just, you know, they're employees in companies, or, you know, they're just kind of like they're on their last leg and they're like stressed out and they're tired of all this nonsense, blah blah blah. Going into the weekend, what's the kernel of wisdom, the advice you have for them?
Well, I look at business owners as 2 types. There are responsible business owners, ethical business owners who pay their taxes, benefits for their employees, you know, do all the things that they're supposed to do. But through this, I've also come to realize that there's a class of business owner out there who has gotten by for a long time with things like paying people under the table and not having to pay benefits and things like that. And so I now have come to the realization that, you know, those are some of the businesses, not all, but they are some of the businesses that are complaining that they can't get money from the government for PPP and so forth. So to those businesses, I say, you know, you reap what you sow. And as far as I'm concerned, in the time that you are not paying your taxes or you are not paying into Social Security, retirement, or unemployment for those employees that you've been paying under the table, you know, the flock has come home to roost for you. And I don't feel sorry for those businesses. For the others, for those of us that have played by the rules, who have paid our taxes, who have put our employees often before ourselves and made sure that, you know, they always had full paychecks, even in days when, you know, we had to put payroll on credit cards and things like that. I say hang in there. We have been through this as a nation before. There have been pandemics before, and we have been through tough times before. Reclamere survived. We started during a recession, and we survived 2 recessions since then, including the meltdown of 2008, 2009. We will get through this. But you absolutely need to be sitting down and forecasting cash flow on a daily basis, thinking about the worst scenarios and starting to plan for those. And I think that's the most important thing I can tell any business owner is now is the time to wring out every inefficiency in your business that you possibly can to get lean. Because the best thing, and what I always come back to when I'm feeling kind of down, is on the other side of this is going to be a phenomenal economy where the bottom feeders, particularly in our industry, will fall away because they won't be able to survive.
Right.
And there will be tremendous opportunity out there for all of us on the other side.
So that's it for Data Security Over Coffee, Little V. Our first episode will be back next week. I think, you know, I'll be surprised where Angie flies in from next. And just to echo what she said, to everybody that's out there that we know that is part of ISIGMA, NFIB, the Pennsylvania Chamber, the Tyrone Chamber, Blair businesses across Pennsylvania, across the United States. I know it's a lot easier for me to say it because, you know, I'm in a different position than all of you, but I really mean it when I say you got to hang in there, and you got to really dig deep and think long and hard about what it is that you're going to spend money on and how you're going to keep your powder dry. And I wish you all the best. And I know that We are going to look different. Even Reclamere will look different when this is all over and done with. But I truly believe that we're going to be here to really be able to take advantage of a great turnaround in the economy, and I'm looking forward to it. So peace out, and we'll be back soon. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.